What's going on, everybody? In today's video, we are going to be talking about the story of my very first real estate flip. So the first deal I ever did, some of the lessons that I learned from it, and some of the lessons that you can learn from it as well. And to this day, it's still one of the biggest deals I've ever done as far as from a wholesale aspect of things. I made $35,000 on the deal. So let's get into it. Okay, so when I was first getting started, I did not really have what I would call a professional contract. I think the contract, the purchase and sale agreement that I used was like the most basic contract of all time. I think I might have gotten it off Google. Like I probably Googled like purchase and sale agreement real estate. I mean, this contract was just basically like purchase price, like address, like closing date. And if you know any, if you're familiar with real estate or real estate investing, you know that most contracts, some real estate agent contracts are like 40 or 50 pages long. So my contract was probably like 1 page or maybe 2 pages. But the point of it was that me and the seller, we were all in agreement with the price, with the closing date, the fact that we were buying it as is. And I think it just met the title company's criteria for like a professional contract so that we could actually get the deal done. So the main thing is, like, when you're first getting started, you might not have the best contracts. You can always ask a more experienced investor for them. But I think when I was getting started, I used like just some really basic template of a contract. Okay, so the second thing to know about this deal was that I got this from a direct mail probate campaign. So I got some leads, and I think I got like 25, 30 leads. And this was just the right seller at the right time. He called me, I made him an offer, ran my numbers, and we got it together. But keep in mind, with this deal, the next point I'm going to make is that I was going to wholesale this deal, meaning I was going to sell the rights of this contract to a more experienced investor. And what ended up happening is I got the property under contract and I sent it out to my list. However, nobody on my list was very interested in the deal. And it was because I only had like 5 or 10 people on my buyer's list. So I did not have a big buyer's list. I didn't have like that type of, when I was first getting started, I was like, well, I'll just have a couple people on my buyer's list. I'm sure they'll be interested in any deal I send them. When in reality, you either need like at least 100 people on your buyer's list, or you should have access to like 100, maybe another wholesaler's buyer's list. Maybe you should have access to like 1,000 or even 2,000 people, because a lot of times other wholesalers will have huge buyer's lists. And so what ended up happening with my deal was that I had it under contract for this price, couldn't find any buyers. So I reached out to a wholesaler buddy of mine who ended up, we ended up doing a joint venture on the deal where he sent my deal out on his list, and then and we had a little joint venture agreement, and we got the deal done that way because he had a lot more people on his buyer's list. He was a lot more experienced than me, so that's one tip I learned from my first deal, was that you can actually partner with other investors. Now, you do have to check your rules and regulations of your state, your jurisdiction, but that was how I got my first deal done. And the last part of this deal was that I did a wholesale, not a rehab. So if you come from like a construction background, or maybe you're just comfortable doing construction, go for it. But me personally, I come from more of like the marketing background. I mean, I don't think I couldn't even like screw in a light bulb. I mean, I'm the least handy person in the world. Like I have to watch YouTube videos just to like learn how to, do something simple. So when you're getting started, I'd always recommend wholesaling. But if you even want to take it a step further, I'd recommend partnering with another more experienced wholesaler, because that will be, all you have to do is just bring the lead, and then oftentimes they'll take it from there. So I hope you enjoyed this video on how I did my first real estate flip. And just to recap, my first real estate flip came from a direct mail campaign, and I still do a ton of direct mail. So this came from a probate direct mail campaign, and my contract that I used was very basic. But me and the seller had a good rapport. We had a good understanding. There was nothing. It was like, this is the price. It's as is. So that was very clear in the contract. And I would always recommend getting a lawyer to look over your contracts. I just have to say that for liability purposes. But the contract I used was very basic. And then the way I did the deal was I actually partnered with another wholesaler. Since I didn't have a huge buyer's list, I partnered with a wholesaler who had like, 500 or 1,000 people on his buyer's list. And we were able to do a joint venture where we basically split the profit. And we both were happy. We both got the deal done and went from there. And then the last part of it was just, I'd always recommend doing a wholesale instead of a rehab for your first couple deals, just so you get a comfort level. And that's unless you come from like a construction background. So there you have it. That's how I did my first real estate flip. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you liked it, please give me a like. Please subscribe, and I will see you in the next video. All right, bye.